All right, what's up, fellas? This will be episode number 2 of the road to a 385-pound overhead press. Um, Between the last one and now, I've hit one straight weight session where I worked up to 245 for 10, which I posted as a short on the YouTube. It's also on my Instagram. And then I also hit another session against bands. I believe my first session that I posted as the first episode of the road to 385, I hit 225 for 10 against the bands. Last session I hit 235 against the bands. So today will be another straight weight session. So my primary session, not my accessory session. I decided I would film some of my preparation before I go to the gym as well, because I think it's just as important as the training as far as driving progression and performance in the gym. I'll probably be too lazy to film my meals afterward, but at some point I will do a full day of eating for you guys so you won't miss out on my newer diet. Yeah, so right over here, this is meal 1. All it is 100 grams of rice. That's the uncooked weight. Something like 3/4 of a teaspoon of pink salt, a quarter of a package of spinach. We have maybe 6.5 ounces of chicken right now. And then I'm going to get started on this, which is a Gatorade with L-citrulline in it, as well as beetroot powder. Both of those are for my blood pressure / blood flow. Yeah, we'll start working our way through that. And then I'm going to do my first round of spreadsheets for the day for the fellas that I coach. I forgot to mention the fat source in this meal. So it was 6.5 ounces of chicken, 100 grams of rice, uncooked weight, and then I think it was 100 grams. Whatever I said initially was the correct number because I had just finished measuring it. And then also the fat source is 1 tablespoon of olive oil. The chicken is cooked on a grill, so there's no added fat from cooking. So it's not pan-seared or anything like that. All right, after the meal, I do my first walk of the day. I do the first one backwards, whatever that's worth. Basic premise of the 10-minute walks that Stand Efforting advocates for insulin sensitivity and to stimulate appetite, speed up digestion. The digestion aspect is the primary reason I do these, on top of my daily conditioning sessions as far as like actually pushing the limit cardio to keep myself in good shape. I do these on top just because I have to eat again in probably about an hour and 45 minutes. So it's the only way I can do so is to take a walk immediately after the meal. So through the day, I'll take 4 10-minute walks. I just do the first one backwards because it makes my lower back and my knees feel nice. Nothing magical to it. All right, so I just finished up my first round of spreadsheets, only to realize that I am out of chicken earlier than I expected to be. So making a quick substitution for meal number 2. Ordinarily, meal number 2 would be the exact same thing as meal number 1. So the 100 grams of rice, the 6.5 ounces of chicken, spinach, olive oil, so on and so forth. Need to go cook my chicken after this. So we're going to have a shake. The shake is 2 cups of whole Fairlife creatine and a scoop and a half of whey to hit the same amount of protein. We're going to have a banana. It's whole Fairlife, so 2 cups, has a little bit of fat. Not quite as much as the olive oil, but getting kind of close. And then I'm going to go dig around the pantry and try to find where I put my rice cakes, which I use as like an emergency meal. Usually I'll eat a can of tuna and some rice cakes when I do not have my proper food prepped. And then maybe I'll just like throw down a tablespoon of olive oil with that to hit my macros when food isn't prepared. So I'm going to eat this. I'm going to do my next 10-minute walk. I'm going to probably do a couple more spreadsheets, run out to the grill and grill up my chicken for the next couple of days. And then here is my wonderful dog, Odo. Hey. Hello. Say hi to the people. Good boy. Good catch. All right, I figure I may as well document this too, as it's part of my morning. So here are my AM supplements. I'm out of 2 things. They're currently in the mail from Amazon. But here's what I've got right now. For the AM, I take half of my stuff AM, half of it PM. Some of it's split morning and night. Some of it's just one or the other. So the red ones are Cholestoff. One of these ones is cardatone for blood pressure. 2 of these are astragalus for the kidneys. 1 of these is curcumin for general inflammation. 2 of these are fish oils. And then this one I think is Tudka. Very cool. All right. So I just finished up my my second round of spreadsheets. Now we are cooking the chicken for the next couple of days over here. Here you can see my wonderful view while grilling in Montana. And here is my wonderful dog Odo. Gonna finish cooking these up. I will eat meal number 3, and then I will do my 3rd round of spreadsheets, and then I'll start getting ready to head out to the gym. All right, so I just finished cooking up my chicken. Right here I have meal number 3. Surprise, surprise, it's the exact same thing again. I mixed some pico de gallo in there to make it exotic and flavorful. So that's fun. If you guys shop at Winco, the Winco brand pico de gallo, very, very good. Highly recommend. As soon as I finish this up, I'm going to mix up. I finished my Gatorade with the beetroot powder and the citrulline. So next I fill up the Gatorade thing with coconut water, beetroot powder, and citrulline for blood flow, as well as for the potassium. Then I'm going to bang out my 3rd walk for the day, do my next round of spreadsheets. Then I'll prepare my post-workout shake and head to the gym. What's up, fellas? Just got done editing up this session after getting home from the gym. I threw down meal number, I had my post-workout meal, which is a shake, and some Rice Krispie treats for some carbs. Then I threw down meal number 5 after I got home, just to make sure I had that out of the way, because I've got one more meal to go for the day. Threw together this video on my computer. This is the most effort I have had to put into a YouTube video, so at least I hope that shows in the quality of the video. Fingers crossed. Here's me doing my general warm-ups. We're just going to voice over most of the session. I realized that I actually got more footage than I needed, and that the video was going to be excessively long if I showed every single feeder and warm-up set of every motion. So we're doing some really quick T-spine mobility. I do these. I sometimes mobilize using a foam roller. I find that mobility demands for being a strong athlete on the upper body are not that huge. If you look at the majority of the guys with the absolute strongest upper bodies, they have very poor mobility, but I do find that the real trick is in the T-spine. So if you're going to do anything as far as mobility on the upper body days, usually it just comes down to a couple of mobility drills for the T-spine, whether it be arching over a roller, kind of an active mobility motion like that, the cat camels, quadruped, elbow to ceiling, so you just kind of put your hand behind your head, rotate so your elbow is pointed up towards the ceiling. All these things are great. Just keeping the T-spine moving decent tends to have a very positive impact on the bench press and the overhead press in my experience. I do a lot more mobility for the lower body than I do the upper body, because I find upper body, as you get larger and stronger, the degree to which you can preserve your shoulder mobility is somewhat questionable. Lots of stretching often just leads to some issues with the nerves. Really aggressively stretching the shoulders has caused me more harm than good. So I found that the real trick is maintaining quality mobility through my T-spine, and then just trying to get stronger training through a full range of motion through the shoulders, whether that be touching the chest on a lat pull down, making sure to get a full range of motion on a high incline press where I touch my collarbone. Can't quite get too low with my overhead presses, but I'm just going to chalk that up to being fat. So as you can see, as usual, I'm getting in lots of reps on the way up. I think for pressing, generally speaking, you just want to drive a reasonable amount of blood flow to the primary movers. Not so much that you're going to be fatigued. It's going to take quality away from the actual working sets that have a reasonable proximity to failure and are driving real adaptation. Obviously, we don't want to take away from those, but as much as you can fit without taking away from those is usually going to be a good idea. So we're up to 165. Generally speaking, I take about 10% jumps. I'm actually closer to 400 pounds on the overhead press than I am 300. So at some point in time, I should probably move from 30-pound jumps over to 40-pound jumps. But this has been my warm-up scheme for a while. I know it works. I know I'm getting enough blood flow that I can perform at a high level without feeling like I'm at risk of straining my rotator cuffs. Here's my little brother Max hitting 420 pounds for 1 on the bench press. Bench has always been Max's worst lift, so we've been working really hard on it this meet prep. As you can see, our sub-maximal form-focused work has paid off because that's some of the best that weight has moved. His current PR is 455, so we're we're hoping to get something close to that on the platform to competition standard. I think that would be a good marker of progress. So here is a mislabeled 225 for 2. Then I take my first working set at 245 pounds, just accumulating some volume. The proximity to failure on these sets are very low. Basically kind of greasing the groove, accumulating a little bit of volume at the relevant percentage for the week, but trying to not take too much away from my one all-out set. This is not an approach I always take. A lot of the time I'll do straight sets with a similar proximity to failure across all the sets to accumulate volume, but today I had a set in mind that I wanted to hit, so didn't want to detract from the quality of that top set, which is right here. 255 pounds for a set of 10, with a little bit more in the tank, I believe. So this was a big success for me. Definitely a PR I've been looking at since the beginning of this training cycle. So happy to get that done. Happy to still be able to do body weight for 10 on overhead press because I weigh about 255 after dropping the end of the block bloat from last training cycle. Would like to do a bit above my body weight for 10, as I always have been able to do that. I would like to pursue that 275 for 10. I think that's a pretty quality landmark that I'm perfectly capable of. So that's something I definitely have in my sights, and I think I'm capable of it based on how that moved. Moving on to my bit of antagonistic work. So I follow my horizontal press, my vertical press with a vertical pull. So I ended up hitting 4 working sets of lat pull downs. Basically, across the sets, I increased the weight, kept the reps somewhat standardized, and the proximity to failure decreases as I go. So first working set was probably about 5 reps in reserve, then 3 or 4, then about 1 or 2, and then this final set I would say was 0 reps in reserve. If anything, I let my form break down, and in that regard it was past failure. Not that that's particularly hard, but that was the most I could do without excessive kipping through a full range of motion. So I felt that was okay. This is the exercise slot where I generally do something where I'm pressing using my shoulders, where torso stability is not going to be a limiting factor. So generally I do something with a back support. Historically, I've always put a Smith machine press in the spot, whether it be high incline or behind the neck, but this gym does not have a Smith machine. So I've been playing around with dumbbells. Personally, I don't get the same amount of carryover out of dumbbells, so I ended up going back to Old Faithful and doing some behind-the-neck presses. Because it's my first week training the behind-the-neck presses, I started really light at 135. I wanted to put in some quality work, so I took it to 0 reps in reserve and hit that 135 pounds for 21. To end off the session, I ended up hitting 4 sets of rear delts, which I find that doing some kind of rear delt fly is a very helpful accessory for the overhead press. And then here's me awkwardly flexing at the end to show off my pump. Thank you for watching my video. As always, I appreciate you guys a lot.